Hi everyone, in this video I'm building a flip cart for a miter saw and thicknesser. I wanted the cart to be cheap but still very sturdy since a miter saw and thicknesser is quite heavy. I'll be using framing timber and particle board. Using framing timber for this does require the extra effort of sifting through all the pieces to try and find the most usable ones, unless you want your cart to have a live edge, in which case there were many options to choose from. I used 90 by 45mm because I wanted the cart to be very sturdy. You can probably use thinner material if you're putting lighter tools on it, or if you find a way to attach the pipe with some end caps that actually pulls it together at the top. Because I was a bit worried the top will be wobbly, but it doesn't move at all. As usual, there were quite a few issues along the way, so I'll just call them out so maybe you can avoid the same mistakes if you're building along at home. I wanted my cart to align perfectly with the top of my bench, so I can use the bench as like a support or outfeed. But if you're not doing that, you don't need two horizontal supports here at the top, you can only have one. I only squared up one face and one edge of the framing timber just to save time and effort. Be careful before you pass it over your jointer or other tools. I did find some metal staplers on one of the pieces. I think it's where they attach that plastic band that keeps the pile together. The timber was thicker than what my pocket hole jig was designed for, but it didn't seem to be a problem. It was just slightly more difficult to fit it into the jig when you clamp it. And when you use pocket holes, remember to adjust the drill bit collet and the jig, because I forgot that. So the first two holes were completely out of place. Only squaring up one face didn't cause any problems when it came to assembly. It's just you can now see it's a bit uneven on the one side. But like I said, I'm more interested in the functionality of the cart, not really so much how it looks. Now this does mean the pocket holes will be on the outside where you can see them, instead of on the inside of the frame where they would be hidden. That's because the squared up face and edge are facing my bench, because I want the top, when it flips, to not bump into anything. Now I was just about to cut this sheet of MDF when I realized it wasn't actually the thickness I used in my design, so I had to cobble together a new bottom from these pieces I had lying around, because I was too lazy to drive to the shop again. Now these scrap pieces were not big enough, so I had to glue them together, and I used this piece of plywood as a support. It shouldn't matter too much, because you won't be able to see it, it will be underneath. So the in and out feed of the thicknesser is slightly lower than the height of the miter saw table. So that means the hole is not in the middle, because it had to be slightly higher when the thicknesser is on top and slightly lower when the miter saw is on top to line up with my bench. You won't have the same issue if you're not trying to hit a specific height. You can just put the hole right in the middle. Now, I did try to work out the location of the hole before building it, but I still didn't do it right, and it was 6mm too low for the thicknesser, as you'll see later on. I used some melamine I had lying around for the sides instead of cutting up the particle board any further. But you should make the holes for the pipe from solid wood, not particle board. So I'm using 25mm galvanized pipe. I didn't actually have a drill bit that matched the size, so I had to use a smaller one and then make the holes bigger with a sander. I would suggest buy a piece of pipe that actually matches one of your existing drill bits. Here I'm adding some additional solid wood support blocks in the corners. The thing is, with particle board, screws going into the side of the particle board won't grip very well since it can separate. So I'm going to screw the top into these solid wood blocks. I'm also adding some solid wood support blocks where the mounting holes for the saw and thicknesser will be. Looking back, I should have marked and drilled the holes where I would mount the saw and thicknesser before I glued the top on. That way I could have made sure that they are in the center of these mounting blocks. It was a lot of extra effort later on to try and figure out where those mounting blocks were after I glued the top on. It would have been easier actually to drill these holes at the top of the frame before I assembled it. But anyway, now I'm stuck trying to find a way to support it to keep it stable in the drill press. Like I mentioned already, I didn't have a drill bit that matched the diameter of the pipe. So I thought it might be better if I take the next drill bit size, which is slightly bigger, drill a hole in the frame, and then I 3D printed these cap ends / sleeves that fit snugly around the pipe and the hole in the frame. The first end cap went in perfectly, but then I struggled with the second one and I eventually broke it because I hit it too hard with a rubber mallet. But it turned out the hole actually didn't drill cleanly through. So after I cleaned it up with a file, it worked perfectly, and then I just used some epoxy later to glue the end cap together again. I'm using some playing cards as spacers to make sure the top can move freely around. I used the cheapest latching bolts I could find at the hardware store. They don't look pretty, but they work well. So I placed the flip card on top of my bench to try and assemble the bottom, which made it very difficult to film because it's so high off the ground. These caster wheels were also pretty cheap, but they can lock, although they are a little bit wobbly, but not so much that it'll be a problem when using the tools. I didn't use any glue on this horizontal support because if it was wrong, I wouldn't be able to flip the tool card and that would defeat the whole purpose. So I just used pocket hole screws in case I have to move the horizontal support. I had to adjust the sliding bolts a little bit with a hammer, but other than that, the flip portion of the card worked very well. By the time I finish this video, I've been using this card for a few weeks now. I added these small magnets to the sides just to keep the sliding latches in place. Going into this project using framing timber, I knew it wasn't going to look great, but actually after sanding it a bit, it's not bad for shop furniture.